Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to South Wales. Welcome to the Cardiff City Stadium. Rather a resplendent-looking Cardiff City Stadium, may I add. I can see plenty of Norwich fans making their way into the ground ahead of this afternoon's 3 o'clock kickoff. I'm Connor Southwell, joined by Paddy Davitt. We're going to bring you the team news as and when it drops. We thought we'd go live a little bit earlier than usual. There's a few bits to talk through and get through, and I guess probably more matters off the pitch than on it. Of course, we want to hear your predictions, be it for the scoreline. You can even throw some in for maybe who you want to see start for Norwich City today, and we will bring you that team news when it drops in about 3 minutes' time or so. Paddy,
Connor,
latest instalment of watching Norwich City. It's going to be good fun, isn't it?
well, as you say, fun. I'm looking directly over at the Norwich fans coming through. Maybe we should canvass them. I mean, Sam's already spoken to one or two. Didn't sound like there was a huge amount had travelled, and can you blame them? Hell of a long journey, and on current form, hope rather than expectation. So, yeah, let's just hope, roll it on. In all seriousness, come 5 o'clock, they've got something to go home, and hope that it was worth the trip.
Yes, let's hope so. Let's talk very briefly then before we get to the team news about matters off the pitch today. As everyone will know, is Stuart Webber's last game as sporting director of Norwich City Football Club. On Monday, the new era under Ben Napper begins. What do you make of it, Paddy? There's been kind of this weird state of limbo for a little while. That perception perhaps of rudderlessness has crept in from supporters. It's good now that there's a decisive date, isn't there, for everyone to maybe look at and get behind, irrespective of how today goes.
Yeah, and key for me is up until Tuesday, 11 a.m. last week, as it is now, as we get to the end of this week, sorry, to be accurate, Ben Napper starts on November the 27th. 11 a.m. Tuesday morning just gone. No, Ben Napper starts on Monday morning coming. Stuart Webber finishes. So effectively, Ben Napper is starting 2 weeks earlier. And we know that he's actually been plugged in and speaking to various individuals. There was discussions around David and his future maybe after Sunderland. Ben Napper was involved in those. So that, to me, underlines the urgency of this, that yes, there needs to be some movement, visible movement, and we're getting it. We're getting it with the guy who's going to drive this forward in the building and fully plugged in from Monday onwards. So, holding pattern no more, Connor.
Yeah, and we should add, we're expecting Stuart Webber to be in attendance today. He obviously wasn't last weekend. He was in Brazil on club business, so he will be at the Cardiff City Stadium today for his final game in charge. Expecting the team news to drop any second now, really, and we'll bring that to you as and when it drops. Cardiff, of course, boast a very strong home record here. They've only lost once here this season, and that was to Gareth Ainsworth's QPR. And in fact, as it hits 2 o'clock, we're here with the team news. Let's bring it to you. Norwich City line up like this. Long in goal. Fisher, Bart, Warner and Poeta as the back four. Sarah and Kenny McLean as the midfield two. Rowe, Nunez and Fashnak behind Hwang. So I'll read that again for you. George Long in goal. Kellen Fisher, a first Norwich City start for Danny Bart. He partners Jaden Warner, and Shemisław Poeta is at left back. Sarah and McLean are the midfield duo. Rowe on the right, Fashnak on the left, as the graphic we look at suggests, with Nunez behind Hwang. The subs bench is Reyes, Stacey, McCallum, Yanulis, Gibbs, Hernandez, Sainz, Springett and Adam Eder. Paddy, let's get to that back four first and foremost, because that's 3 changes from the back four that started last week against Blackburn. Obviously, Shane Duffy suspended today, so he can't play. Changes in both full-back areas with Jack Stacey and Dimi Yanulis. I think Shemisław Poeta had an initial impact when he came on last weekend. What do you make of how he set up that back four? And of course, the first start for Danny Bart, which many have been calling for.
Yeah, well, he was running out of options there. No Hanley, obviously, worth reiterating, that didn't feature for the 21s on Friday, so they've erred on the side of, unless David's going to update on his fitness after the game. We'll ask him certainly, but if he's not in the equation, you haven't got Duffy, you haven't got Gibson. Danny Bart was the last man standing, and it felt like he was going to need something of this type of situation for him to actually get an opportunity. Asked David on Friday, was it? Said I can close my eyes and have no qualms about the ultimate professional going out today and being in the 11. Well, there you go, he's got his wish. Yeah, break it down. I mean, other than the back four, he's only made one change, and I think that's Fashnak comes in for Hernandez, if I'm not mistaken, from Blackburn. So very clear.
Birthday today.
Happy birthday.
30 today.
Happy birthday. Another 30-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay, how many is that, Connor?
He is the...
I know the answer.
Go on.
It's double figures, isn't it?
Double figures.
It's 11, is it?
11, yeah, 11, yeah.
good age profile to the squad. We'll move it on swiftly from there.
Save it for the pod.
Yeah, three out of 4 changes to the back four, albeit Duffy was enforced. Tells me that's where David Vagner and his coaches have settled on when they've dissected Blackburn.
Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, I don't think Kenny McLean and Gabby Zara were exactly excellent in terms of screening last weekend, but we don't need to unpick Blackburn. We're here for Cardiff now, but they've decided that is the case, and then within that, yeah, you're right, as you said, 2 fullbacks both getting changed out. They clearly feel they didn't deliver what they needed to last weekend, and Puerto was good, albeit they're 3-0 down at that point, and Blackburn were a man down, so it was a pretty favourable conditions for him to come into, and he played further forward. He didn't play at left back as we would assume he is today, so it's a different scenario in terms of assessing him. Good to see Fisher in again. That's 2 starts in the last 3 now. If we're talking in more broader brushstrokes about moving it forward now and a new era, he needs to be part of it for me. He needs to be starting regularly. You're left feeling it's going to be the same questions again, because it feels structurally he's not going to do too much different. He's got lots of the same personnel in lots of the same areas of the pitch, in the middle and forward areas. What's going to be different from today that we haven't seen?
Scramble for a solution, isn't it? Is that kind of where we are?
Well, yeah, it might be too late for that, but I can't think off the top of my head, but it feels like every game of the last 4 or 5, he's done 3/4 changes in terms of his 11. So he's really tried to shuffle it around, and sadly with the same outcome in most instances. So, that to me tells me that the squad, whoever he puts in there, isn't able to, carry out whatever his wishes are. I said to him specifically on Friday, is there a lack of clarity with these groups of players, whoever the 11 is, because they go to Sunderland in the last away game, they go with a low block trying to counter-attack. Yeah. Then last weekend they go, no, we'll go aggressive, we'll try and press Blackburn high. Both games end up in a 3-1 defeat, and it looked like Norwich didn't know what they were trying to do. He's adamant that when they cross the white line, they know what they're going to do in and out of possession. But the evidence is staring us in the eyes over these last 11 games. They look rudderless. Maybe we want to get into that, Connor. We can add a bit of insight.
Yeah, I will. I'll add this up from Nick Smith, who has put in that Chris Gorham, our Radio Norfolk colleague, is reporting that there's an injury setback for Grant Hanley. I have to say this is one that I did hear during the week, and I don't know any of what Chris has been told, but I was told that there was a hamstring issue, which, to be fair, isn't uncommon when players come back from a long-term injury to have that kind of setback, particularly if maybe they've gone from a pretty low load, maybe not even non-existent load, to a pretty high load. So if that is the case, that Chris is kind of chiming, I think, with maybe what we had heard, and I think you hinted at with David Vagner, which again would be another real blow for Norwich City if that is, we don't know the extent of it, etc. If that does turn out to be the case,
we'll find out, obviously, specifically
and we will find out after the game. One player, again, it feels like we speak about him in all these videos, and I know Joe on the comments wants to come to David Vagner, and I promise we will, Joe. Actually, before we do that, let's bring the Cardiff line up. I'll read that out first, and then we'll come to Borja Signs if we've got it. There we go, we do have it, and this is how they line up under Errol Bullitt, who arrived from Turkey, was pretty unknown on these shores, has done a decent job so far. They've got Jack Anik in goal, Romeo, Gutas, McGuinness, and Collins as the back four. Siosis, who's a very highly rated Greek midfielder, who they signed on a free transfer. Joe Rawls captains their side. Josh Bowler on the right. Carlin Grant on the left, with Callum Robinson behind Yaku Mete, who was formerly at Reading. Quite a bit of pace in that front four, in particular for Cardiff. Let's talk about Borja Signs then, Paddy. It feels like we speak about it every week, but Fashnacht again today on the right. We speak about the changes that he's making. They predominantly have come from the defensive areas and also those wide areas as well. It was Hernandez last week, Fashnacht again this week. We're yet to see Borja Signs start a championship game for Norwich City. I want to ask why, which, you're not David Wagner, so it's a really difficult question to ask, but feels a little bit odd that we haven't seen Borja Signs yet. It must be a fitness thing.
I mean, you can draw a parallel with Danny Bart, who gets the opportunity today, but when those game after game after game, and it wasn't all by no manner of means about Gibson and Duffy and their limitations and deficiencies as individuals and collectively, but it was quite clear there was a vulnerability there, yet consistently kept going with those two, and then eventually Jaden Warder comes in last week, and now today Danny Bart. Feels to me the same in terms of that, the situation with Borja Sainz. Game after game after game in this 11-game run, they haven't offered enough going forward consistently. So what is preventing him from giving him an opportunity today? What is there to lose, frankly? We know what Fashnak can do.
Birthday present?
Well,
I'm joking, by the way.
But he's not the Fashnak who came in originally in that, albeit, more positive 8 games unbeaten when you had Barnes and Sargent, and they looked like a decent team in and out of possession. He suffered along with the rest of his teammates in the intervening weeks. And it's hard for Sainz because, again, you'd imagine he'll probably get a cameo at some point in the second half today, like he did at Sunderland, Carrow Road game or two. What can he really do when Norwich are probably on the back foot and the game's going against them? It's a very difficult hand he keeps getting dealt. And it might end up being another head coach who decides it's time for Borja Sainz, but let's see him. He feels like he could be an X-Factor player, as Johnny Rowe was in the early parts of the season. And Lord alive, do they need a spark and an inspiration from somewhere instead of more of the same and tried and trusted, because that isn't working. So, yeah, I couldn't agree more with any commenter who's asking why not Sainz. And, if you want it to feel different and newer, I asked to give him his due with Fisher again today. He is showing his willingness to do that in other areas of the team, just not at the moment with Borja Sainz. And as I say, if we get to see him again in the second half and the game's up already, then that'll be more fuel for those who just get him in the team. Let's see what he can do. Give him a fair opportunity with a consistent seam of starts in the Championship. And let's see if he's the player who, when he arrived in the summer, we all thought he could be, which was a real facilitator of something much more positive than, let's be honest, the dross that we're getting at the minute.
Yep. Let's talk David Vagner then. It's probably the topic that has dominated this game going into it. It'll be the topic, irrespective of result today, I suspect, that will dominate the post-match discourse as well, because of the changes that we spoke about beforehand. I'm just a bit lost for words about it, Paddy. I'm struggling.
Which aspect in general?
I desperately want to offer reasons, and this is probably what I'll come to you, as to why he is still in post, or should still be in post. I mean, the run of form is damning. It's 8 defeats in 11 Championship games. Go on.
Well, I mean, it was interesting. I mean, Luke seemed to be offering the counter argument there. Adam's just called it back up again. In terms of stick with him, and who knows what the second half is.
Maybe that is the counter.
Maybe.
But the form isn't good. It clearly needs to change. Are we? And this, I guess, will frame the question. Do you feel, irrespective of result today, that will be a conversation in the international break? Do you think if he wins, he buys himself more time? Where do you think we are with David Vagner? I guess so much of it probably hinges on Ben Napper.
Yeah, who I would expect in some forum we will hear from over the international break. And I guess we'll have a better idea then. But you can only go with the evidence of the last few days, and it's quite clear that internally, all these anecdotes that David threw out there about Delia and Michael picking up the phone, and Ben Napper and himself, and Zoe Webber's match day column last weekend, none of that screams this is a guy on the brink and he's, final game and out. I mean, I directly put in those questions to him. Do you fear today's the last day? Do you fear the sack? All these other names get thrown in now, principally Frank Lampard. When it starts to get to that point and there's actively people touting other candidates for your job, then it feels a bit jarring that the sense from inside the club is that no, they're not there in their minds, and ultimately they are the people who will make this decision. Well,
yeah, I don't think this is a conversation to us to have, because I don't think it's right, but I think it maybe captures where people are with it. I mean, I've had Norwich fans in the last week say to me, who's the next head coach going to be? There's not even a vacancy yet. I mean, it's incredible, really, that's the position that they find themselves in. And of course, while he's still in post, there is always that possibility that he can turn it around and he can find a magic formula. And who knows, maybe today will be the day that he does that. So let's see what we get, and that probably leads us on to this game, Paddy. It feels like an immense task for Norwich City today in the current form. David Wagner's calling it an injury crisis. I don't necessarily agree that it's an injury crisis. They've got some players missing. some important, some who have been involved throughout this run of games. If they don't win today, it will be one win in 11. It feels like we are in must-win territory. I feel like I'm asking silly questions, but this has to be halted at some point. So is today the day that this Norwich City team can halt this run, in your view?
It's always possible. Yeah, it's always possible. But the flip side of it, we've not got into any discussion about Cardiff. They've lost in the league once, and that was in the first week of August here. So you're coming to arguably the toughest championship outpost at the minute. They do feel, conversely, unlike Norwich, a coach has gone in the summer, been very astute in their transfer dealings, and have brought together a team who are very capable at home, that's for sure, and they're in and around the top 6 conversation. So even if Norwich have been in a good reign of form and, picking up results and playing well, this is a tough assignment. So no, I don't think they'll get anything here today. But the broader question about it has to stop. Yeah, it has to stop, because you get beat today, that's 9 defeats in 12 league games.
5 on the bounce as well.
When is enough, ultimately? For a manager who was 1 win in 11 at the back end of the last season. He's had plenty of opportunity now. Mitigation aside, the only injury mitigation I will give him is Barnes and Sargent. They are critical to not only Norwich offensively, but out of possession and the press, in direct contrast to the shambles we saw last week against Blackburn, when they seemingly had no structure, individually, collectively, all over the shop, totally open to what Blackburn were trying to do, who aren't by any manner of means one of the better teams in this division. So I will give him that. The Barnes and Sargent, they have been irreplaceable, because Hwang and Eder and Nunes and Gibbs, they don't offer the same thing. So fair enough. But him and his coaching staff are there to try and come up with solutions and try and at least bridge to the point when they're back, not lose 8 games in 11. That's not coaching out a solution, is it? That's holding your hands up and saying, sorry, we can't do anything about it. We'll change personnel, but really until we get Barnes and Sargent back, which isn't good enough. Not if you're a club.
You can't just bin off half the season, can you? And wait till Josh Sargent comes back, and then he's going to have a period of adaptation again. It just can't happen.
No, so yes, but I thought Sunderland, that was the time. Very clear after the game. Chris Gorham interviewed me for Radio Norfolk. For me, that was the end of the road for him, and here we are, 2-3 games on from there. They haven't won another point, I think I'm right in saying, since Sunderland, and by all indications, he will still be here over this international period, and then QPR at Carrow Road. What is the thinking? What are they happy just to avoid relegation this season and then go again next season?
Well, the way they're going, they won't avoid relegation. The way they're playing, the run of form they're on, you have to project in that way, don't you? This kind of
on this trajectory,
yes,
of
course. Yeah, that's what I mean. So you have to do something to change the trajectory. If you're changing the players and the.
But what I'm saying to you, are they thinking, Barnes and Sargent back, and then away we go? In which case, it'll be more of this holding pattern until those two come back. And my own thoughts would be, once they're back in the mix, irrespective of who the head coach is, this team won't go down if those two players stay fit. But that's a very low bar. If the bar now is just stay in the division, that's a long way short from where they started this season. And people need to be culpable for that. And with Stuart Webber going and Ben Napper coming in, then the focus is now firmly moving on after this game, going to be on David Vagner, and he knows that better than anybody. So it's ultimately, it's not for him to, as he said last week, will you resign? No, that's not in my character. It's for people above him to take the decision out of his hands and decide, sorry, it's not working, David, you've had a hell of a long run to try and turn it round. We're going to go in a different direction. And until that happens, David Vagner will be Norwich head coach.
Yeah, and it's worth saying as well, before we come to score predictions, today is his 40th game in charge of Norwich City. He hasn't got past that number in his last 2 postings. Well, it's just peculiar, isn't it? So if he makes 41 against QPR, he might take that as some sort of win. I don't know. He probably really dislikes the number 40. How's this going to go, Paddy? How do you see this one going for Norwich City? And then let's have a score prediction as well.
Well, I said 2-1 defeat on the Insta we did earlier on from our plush Cardiff base, and I was probably being generous to Norwich because I don't really see them troubling the scorers, but I'll stick with that. 2-1 defeat, and in the bigger picture, will that be enough to bridge him to Cardiff when Ben Napper's in the building? QPR, sorry, yeah, it probably will be, in all honesty, unless they get absolutely tanked today. Because if they were going to do it, they'd have done it by now, wouldn't they? And now we know definitively that Ben Napper starts effectively Monday onwards. So nothing will happen, in my view, until Monday onwards.
I hope you're wrong, Simon. Wow. It's a hell of a long way to come for 4-0 and 3-0. So I think it'll be 3-1 Cardiff for what it's worth. I really struggle to see how this Norwich City team, park anything else, the confidence levels are so low. So let's hope we both are pleasantly surprised. And obviously, I don't know, Adam, if you can just turn your laptop around and get those away fans as a parting shot that are starting to file their way into the Cardiff City Stadium. It's a hell of a long way for them. Let me see if I can make that bigger. No, there we go. Hang on, I'm not usually in chat. No, that's the wrong one. This is good fun for you. That's that one. How does this one work? Can we change that? Help me out, Adam. Here, I'm trying to make your.
No, let me put this. Here we go.
Right, there we go. Right, we got there in the end. There are the Norwich away fans in that corner. As we say, it's about 40 minutes or so to go until kick-off. Bit of light relief at the end, if nothing else. Me trying to navigate this system. Thanks, Adam. Of course, Blinken.com, the place to go for all of the coverage, analysis, reaction to this game. This man will be speaking to David Vagner afterwards. It's going to be an interesting afternoon. Thanks for watching.